Hello and welcome to another edition of PaynePoints of Interest, where we talk about and answer questions relating to all things in small business. So grab your coffee, sit back, and join us as we start this discussion. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Harbuck, and I'm your host today. And with me is Michael Payne giving his little thoughts and opinions. And we have a very special guest, David Saphir, with his expertise on cash flow. David, thanks so much for joining us this week.
It is great to be here, Sarah. It's hard to believe it's Friday already.
I know. It's crazy. The days all seem to kind of blur together, don't they?
Yes,
And
they
speaking
do.
of that, in light of the recent world events and this global pandemic we are all suffering under, what words of wisdom do you have for small businesses that are currently struggling right now with cash flow and maintaining some stream of income during this shutdown, basically? Is there anything that you can shed some light on, maybe give some words of hope to those who are, I'm sure, very anxious and fear-ridden with how the future is going to ride out? So, yeah.
Well, let me talk about two groups of businesses. Let me first talk about the ones that are strong and have some kind of reserves and or ongoing cash flow that will sustain them. Okay, can we address that
Oh, sure,
first?
totally.
So the first thing that I would suggest is communications is going to be key during this crisis, both with your customers, as well as your vendors, as well as your lending institutions.
Yes.
Uh, Vendors and yes, those three groups. Oh, sorry. Absolutely key is employees to keep them part of this. Even if the news is bad, knowing bad news, in my opinion, is generally better than not knowing what's going on, and the worry is worse than the reality.
Yes, definitely.
So, to those companies that are relatively strong, number one, we had an episode on accounts receivables. Call the people that owe you money. Don't be hard handed with them. It's not going to work. It's going to backfire. As a matter of fact, there's an expert. Her name is Jan Reeves, and she wrote the book, Get Paid. If you go to her website, it's JANREEVES.com. The book Get Paid, she's got a free download that gives you a huge chunk of that book. Contact your customers.
Okay. Kind of get in touch with them to see where they're at and what they can do, or give them some leniency. What would that all entail, do you think?
The situation will dictate your response, but number one is saying, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And how can we keep doing business together?
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's good
Because
advice.
the last thing we want is to burn bridges right now.
Yeah.
And if they ask for leniency, then try to set up payment plans, right?
Yeah.
But let them initiate the conversation. Let them tell you what, they're just as worried as you are,
Yeah. Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
more.
a lot of people are without work right now and not being able to
Huh?
pay the bills that they normally would be able to pay with not a problem. So I feel like it's probably everyone is in the same boat right now.
Yes, absolutely. And so then we could talk about those different groups. So let me talk about something a little bit different that you might not have thought about.
Okay.
There will be huge opportunities coming out of this.
And what do you think those
When,
opportunities are? Like, what would you list them as?
well, the opportunities are there will probably be consolidation in the marketplace,
Okay.
meaning not all the restaurants are going to reopen, but just as many people are going to want to eat.
Yes.
So whenever this lifts, the restaurants that survive should be thinking right now about what they're going to do when people can walk in through the door.
So prepare for the future
Prepare for
reopening.
the future.
Okay.
Yes. as well as yeah, that's another one.
Okay.
But also take a look at the emergency funds that are available. It's going to take 2, 3, 4 months for those to come in. You should be looking at commercial loans. And if
Okay.
anyone needs help with either one of those, they can contact me. I've got a great source that if I send somebody his way, he knows that they're in good shape to be put through the process. It's not underwriting, and he can do 24-hour turnaround whether or not you're going to get a commercial loan.
Okay.
And there's funds available. Okay.
So you said huge
So,
opportunities, which would result in consolidation in the marketplace. You said to look at emergency
yes.
funds and possibly getting a commercial loan. What other things do you see as an opportunity that people have right now?
Well, an opportunity is to get your financial house in order. If you don't have one already, put together a 13-week cash flow model.
Okay.
Is my opinion, every company should have one. And if you don't have one right now, if you're going to get a loan, the best way to get one is say, this is what's going on. In the past, this is what we're projecting, and this is why. And they use cash. They don't use, you can do a P&L, but they like cash flow models. I've talked to half a dozen lenders. They all prefer cash flow models.
Good deal. And they can utilize any kind of bookkeeping software to help with a cash flow model. Yes.
Yes, usually it's an add-on, or they can download a cash flow model off the internet. It's not really that critical. What they use, it's more that they understand it a bit
Yeah.
and that it's in place.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine that's pretty critical during this time. I know some
Yep.
businesses will put aside for things like this, or at least no one I think could prepare for us living living like we are currently, or didn't think that that would be a thing in our lifetime we'd have to see. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
yeah,
agree.
this is unprecedented in some ways in our in just our economy and our community. And people worrying about whether they're going to be able to reopen their doors, because a lot of corporations, chain restaurants and different things like that probably have the safety net of their parent company, whereas a lot of these mom and pop businesses that were thriving before this happened could be in real trouble if this drags on for more than the projected 30 days that they're asking us to
Hmm.
stay at home. And we own some mom and pop establishments ourselves, and it is definitely a concern for us during this time to be able to maintain a payment, some kind of payment, or part income to our employees who are struggling, and they are a lot of these are college kids or the equivalent of. And then being able to get the business started again once we are allowed to open up our doors. And, I feel like our business has been in a pretty good place, and so we'll probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, be okay. But
Yep.
I've heard a lot of people in the community that are super worried about what to do in this time, what they can be preparing for, what they can be working on to hopefully, lessen the blow of this financial upset.
So let me make a suggestion that every business should consider home delivery. Now,
Okay.
obviously, the restaurants are doing it, but what about the hardware store? Or what about the clothing store or the bath and beauty type stores? I mean, you can't do the personal services, but salons could start selling to their clients the specialty products that they have
Yeah.
and delivering.
I mean, a lot of this kind of, anytime something like this happens, I feel like invention is born out of necessity. And so some of
Yes.
these businesses who didn't normally do business on the internet or think about, oh, I could start a delivery system. I think of some of the local hardware stores in this town. If they just hired a, 18-year-old kid who's not in school right now and said, I need you to deliver all day long to these different addresses, these things. I mean,
Yeah.
you would still have income coming in because you've thought outside the box a little bit compared to what you were used to doing. I think the biggest thing with this current world crisis is it's going to make all of us change the way we think about how we do our business going forward.
Yes. I agree. Let me talk to you about, though, the other side of the coin.
Okay.
And those are the businesses that were already in trouble or businesses that are really, they can't sustain. It's a hard thing to think about, but it's possible the best thing they could do is shut down the business and start over again in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Um,
That's hard and scary for a lot of people because it's like, well, I worked so hard to get it here. But
yep.
you worked that hard and you got it there. You can do it again. I mean, that's the
And
theory
it can,
anyway, right?
right, as opposed to spending years trying to dig yourself out.
Yeah.
There
Right.
are there's a new bankruptcy law for small businesses called Chapter 5
Okay.
that is less expensive. It's hardly anybody's used it, but it has companies up to $7.5 million are still considered very small, can use this at reduced costs to reorganize and maybe emerge much stronger
Yeah.
than they are right now, and they don't have to actually shut down. And this is something people don't like to talk about, so you don't hear about it in the marketplace. But I'm actually working with the company. I do the front end stuff, which is cash flow modeling and forecasts. But there's people who do the back end stuff, because sometimes when I do these models, it's just like, I'm very sorry to tell you this, I don't see any way out of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, people have to hear that though, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
it's a reality. Like you said, you don't want to have to dig yourself out for years and years when you could just cut your losses as much as you can and start again
Uh,
when you're able to.
Yeah. And the person who founded the organization, he's gone through a business failure, and I've gone through a business failure, and it's really tough. But that means that we're an empathetic ear.
Yeah.
So I'm offering an invitation for anybody out there who's dealing with this, that call me, which we haven't mentioned on the other episodes. Get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to just for half an hour sit, ask questions, talk to you about what your options might be, and then you at least go away having somebody who you could have talked to, and to try to get an opinion with what's happening with your situation.
Yeah, that's great, David. Thank you so much for offering that. I know that there's a lot of very anxious people out there, and we hope that we've kind
Yeah.
of given them some at least some things to think about and maybe try to implement during this time. I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add to today's topic, you can find us on our social media. Our website is PaynePoints.com. Our Facebook and LinkedIn is PaynePoints. Instagram, Payne.points, and Twitter at PointsPayne. David, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn and on YouTube. LinkedIn, it's David Saphir. And guess what? YouTube, it's David Saphir.
You made it
So,
short and simple and easy.
yes, it's
All right, well, we're going to continue with our support of local businesses here in the area. And this week we've been doing a shout out for Standpipe Coffee House. They are located at 123 South First Street in downtown Lufkin, Texas. They sling coffee all day, all night. Caffeine, caffeine, caffeine. Or coffee, 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 as they said in Gilmore Girls. Go see them whenever the quarantine is lifted. Fuel up on all your caffeine needs. Breathe in the air and be around people, and show your support to local businesses when you can. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Y'all take it easy, and let's all get to work.